Chapter 4, Lesson 1, we're going to look at inequalities in the graph and how do we look at solutions to those inequalities and then how do we graph those. The solution to an equation, you remember, is any number that when you substitute it into the original equation makes it true. And with equations, there's generally only one answer. You've been solving these now for a few weeks. X is 7. So when you put 7 into the original equation, that will make that a true sentence. Or X is 1/2, or X is 2/3, or X is 7. So there's usually just one answer to an equation. We'll look at some later on this year where there's more than one. With inequalities, however, there's an infinite number of answers that you could put into the inequality that would make that a true statement. So we're going to look at those. We're going to look at how to graph those. So let's introduce, or maybe reintroduce, what an inequality is. The definition of an inequality is written here. An inequality is a math sentence that compares the value of two expressions using an inequality symbol, such as this symbol here, which we call the less than symbol because it's reading from left to right. It's pointing at the smaller of the two values. Or the greater than symbol, again, leading left to right, it's pointing at the smaller on the right, so the number on the left would be greater than. So if we're going to put that in our notes, we might just say something very simple like it simply means not equal to, and it's an expression in math that has this less than or greater than symbol. And that's pretty much the only definition that we need to be aware of or be able to express. Now, we have been working with equations, and we know that when we have an equal sign, that's what makes an expression an equation. If we have a math sentence now that has either the less than or the greater than symbol, this is called an inequality now. The nice thing about it is we really don't have to learn anything new in terms of how do we solve them. We'll cover that in the next lesson, but this is all we need to know, the difference between what an equation is and what an inequality is, and it simply comes down to this symbol that we see in the expression. Now, a few notes and things to notice about inequalities. The symbol, we know if it points to the left, we read it as is less than, and the symbol, if it's pointing to the right, is read as is greater than, and that because the symbol on the item on the left is being compared to the item on the right. So the item on the left is less than the one on the right in this scenario. If it's this symbol, the item on the left is greater than the one that's on the right, and it is indicating that they are not equal. However, we do have another type of symbol that uses these, and it's actually a combination of the less than symbol with the equal sign. And this symbol means that what is on the left is less than or equal to what's on the right. And this symbol is what's on the left is greater than or equal to the one that's on the right. Now, notice the word or. Or means that one of these two things is true. Okay? Meaning that the symbol on the left is either less than the one that's on the right or it's equal to. It can't be both. Doesn't have to be both. It can't be both. Can it be both? No, it can't be both. It's either less than or it's equal to, one or the other. So this is a combination of the inequality with the equal sign. It is important to note that even though this includes the equal sign, because there's an inequality symbol with it, these are going to be called inequality sentences or mathematical inequalities. These are not mathematical equations, even though the equation is part of it. Now, earlier this year we talked about translating, and when we translated earlier this year from English into math, we never used these symbols. But we did see the phrase less than. So what's the difference between less than and is less than? Is there a different meaning? And yes, it is. If you look at this vocabulary tip, you'll notice that less than is simply the subtraction sign. We have less, which is subtraction, and than is the syntax order. However, when we put the word is in front, is, you remember, is an equal sign. So this word is in front means that now this phrase is less than is referring to a comparing of the words that come before with the words that come after in English. So whenever you see the word is in front of less than, we're now talking about the inequality symbol less than. And if we have the word is it's the inequality greater than, we're talking about the inequality greater than. So the word is how you're going to be able to distinguish whether it's a subtraction problem, like we've been doing, or whether it's an inequality sign that we're going to be doing in this lesson. So let's talk about the solution to these inequalities. Now, we already know from our discussions earlier this year that the solution to an equation is any number that when you put it into the original equation makes that a true sentence. The solution to an inequality is the same definition. It would be any number that you would put into the inequality sentence that would make that inequality then a true sentence. Now, the difference here is with an inequality, we have an infinite number of possibilities that could be solutions. There's many numbers that could usually work in an inequality. With an equations, the ones that we've worked on so far, there's only been one answer, unless we ran into an identity where there was either all real numbers. But in general, these equations had one answer. With inequalities, we have multiple answers. So we're going to look at how to represent those later on. But for right now, that's all we need to understand. So let's take a look at some of the types of things that you're going to be doing. And this is called mental math. And basically, some of your problems in your book will be like this. Is each number a solution of the expression x is less than or equal to 7? So they're going to give you a number and you're going to ask you, would this be a solution? So basically you're going to put that number where the x is and see if you have a true sentence. So for example, 9. So if we put 9 in for the letter x, we have a statement, 9 less than or equal to 7. Is that a true sentence? Well, no, 9 is not less than 7, and it's not equal to 7. So 9 is not a solution to this inequality, because when substituted into the original expression, does not make it true. The number -1, when we put that in for the letter x, we have the sentence -1 is less than or equal to 7. Is that true? Well, yes, -1 is less than or equal to 7. 14/2 is a fraction. We'd probably want to reduce that to 7, and then if we put 7 into that, we would have 7 is less than or equal to 7, and that is also true because while 7 is not less than 7, it is equal to 7, so it would be a solution. So you try for this one. So very quickly, is each number a solution of x is greater than or equal to -4.1? So if you put -5 in for x, would this be a true sentence? And the answer would be no. For -4.1, would that be a true sentence? Well, yes, that would be equal to. How about 8? Is 8 bigger than -4.1? Yes. And 0, is 0 bigger than 4.1 or equal to? Yes, it is as well. So that is what an inequality is. That's how we determine the solution. In the next video, we'll look at how do you graph these solutions to these inequality sentences.